What's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Latina Mic Drop with your girl, Miriam Simon, where we fuse streetwise authenticity with corporate level strategy to help you step into your boldest self. We're going to be the boldas asses out here. I'm Miriam Simon, executive coach. Today, we're diving into a topic that too often gets pushed aside in our communities: mental health in the Latino world. Why now? Because it matters. Recent data shows that about 21.4% of Latino Hispanic adults reported having a mental health condition within the past year. Yet far fewer receive care compared to other groups. Today, we'll explore how trauma, identity, culture, and workplace leadership all converge, and how you can claim your voice, lead with authenticity, and build resilience. So let's get into it. First, let's understand the gap. And I love this because I just recently did me see gap map. And this is how we can really find solutions and pathways to a better tomorrow, to reaching our goals. Let's discuss first the barriers. So, the stigma. The majority of Latinos, a lot of things that I hear, and this comes from even myself before, how I used to think, what I used to be like. No, I am not going to therapy. Why am I going to speak to a perfect stranger about my issues, my problems? What are they going to understand? How is that going to help me? What do they know about me? What could possibly be good about that? Access to therapy is also important, right? Who can afford therapy? You don't just go for one session, right? Therapy is various sessions for a period of time until you reach your goal. And cultural perceptions around mental health, right? Que estás loca, vas a hablar con alguien que no sabe nada. And the other thing too is, right, that calladita te ves más bonita stuff. Like, you can't go outside of this house telling our deepest and darkest secrets and stuff that has happened. So, like, no, you're not going to do that. And a lot of times, too, when we have to go to therapy or when we're considering going to therapy, we're thinking about, is this going to hurt my loved ones, right? Because we have familismo, which is very huge in our community. And we think, if I mention this, then so and so is going to get hurt. And in reality, we're the victims of it, but we are taught to protect our family at all costs, to protect people, even if they have hurt us, even if they have done something negative to us. Not everything has to equal going to therapy, right? Mental health could be taking a day off from work. So then what happens there? You don't want to take a day off from work. You don't want to ask for a day off. You don't want to use your vacation day. You don't want to, put in for family and medical leave to care for a loved one. Like, I just was thinking about that, and I was like, but I need, like, this is how I'm going to feel better about it. Like, this is what I need to be able to help my spouse, right? But then that happens where we're like, maybe if I take off, then I can't get, they're not going to respect me. What are they going to think? Like, that always pops up. Like, ¿qué es lo que va a decir la gente, right? That's another one that pops up all the time. And so, for reference, over 50% of Hispanic young adults with serious mental illness may not receive treatment. That's 1 in 2 people. So, 1 in 2 people may not receive help. Sometimes what happens is that we don't know to look for it. Like, we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes our parents didn't have the access either. So they didn't help us when they could as young kids. And we had no idea. We were struggling in school. We were struggling with people. We were struggling with everything. And we had absolutely no freaking clue that mental health situation was part of the reason why we were going through all of these things and we were going through all these difficulties. if you do get diagnosed, it's like, well, we don't want to pop a pill or we don't want to do this. There's just so much that is included in this situation, this conversation. And of course, it's a personal journey for everyone. The same thing that works for me will not be the same thing that works for you. And every situation is unique to what's going on. It could be genetic, it could be because of trauma, it could be as a result of so many different things. Think about your own workplace or community, right? Like what conversations about mental health are happening and what's still taboo. Uh, what are people not talking about? This is definitely one where people are like, well, you need therapy, but at the same time, have you done it? Have you been able to go? Have you been are you self-aware of where you are? Are you self-aware of what your potential concerns could be, or your potential issues could be, or how you're showing up as well, right? I always think about, we're always contributing to the problem. If I'm part of the equation, then I need to look at myself and say, okay, what am I not seeing, and who is the professional that can help me? And understanding the gap is really important to be able to say, okay, you know what? This is something that's continuously happened. As a coach, my job is to understand the patterns that are coming up as people are talking to me. You can usually look at, okay, wait, this is the same situation, but with a different person. How am I contributing to this? And sometimes we may not know, we may not be able to figure it out on our own. And sometimes it is important to go speak to somebody else. And it could be a mentor, it could be your best friend, it could be a professional, it could be a coach, it could be so many different people based on your particular situation. So, understanding the gap is step one, but how do these challenges intersect with leadership? Let's look at trauma as a potential fuel for resilience, right? There are many things that can guide our leadership, and trauma is one of them, right? So we can be experiencing stress of immigration. So everything that's happening now in our communities, so many of us are carrying our documentation with us because we are not sure what we're going to be faced with when we leave our house and head out to work or head out to shop, head out to wherever the heck we're going. And we just don't know what's going to happen and if we're going to be discriminated against, or we are going to be profiled because of our race and what we look like. And also family pressures. I know so many people who have chosen a career because of what their family wanted them to do and didn't really have a voice in what they could do, what they could say, where they could go, what they could wear. I know for myself, I didn't have a lot of options when I was little, not because I didn't want to express myself. It was because there were so many societal norms, gender norms, so many different things that I needed to pay attention to, that my voice was rarely heard, on top of being resourceless. Like I didn't have money to buy what the hell I wanted or wear the colors I wanted or anything like that. The trauma really doesn't have to be a barrier. Like it can create empathy, perspective, and drive. So let me tell you a story. And this is something that I realized after going to therapy and after writing my book. I realized that I was raising my hand to do things that were making me sacrifice my own success to help the greater good. Now, that sounds like helping the greater good is a good thing, of course, and being able to be a team player is a good thing. But the problem is that I took it too far in accepting something that actually further down the line, I didn't even realize I was carrying the burden. By carrying the burden, it actually hurt me in my performance, in what I was doing and what I was able to accomplish. And it kind of tainted a little bit, not so much from my perspective, because it wasn't like my exact work, but this is the issue that happens, is that sometimes because of trauma, I was raised to take on emotions for other people, to take on what they couldn't do because they couldn't handle it. Bringing that into the workplace created more stress for me, created more trauma, created more inefficiencies. Sometimes think about when you are raising your hand and what you're raising your hand to. Sometimes it isn't, in the long run, a good thing for you. You're just responding because of the way that you grew up, responding of the way that you were used to taking on too much. And that's what I did. And thankfully, towards the end of that, I realized that I can make different choices. And so that's why now it's so much better for me than it was before. But I needed to go through it in order for me to see it. And thankfully now everything is all good. The next thing is authenticity at work. How do you bring your full self, your culture, your experiences, identity into professional spaces? This is something that I struggled with in the beginning. I wasn't too sure how Mexican I can be, right? And I don't even know why I thought it was an issue. Like, just being myself is normal. But I didn't have the acceptance of my parents because of my LGBTQ plus identity. It wasn't that easy for me to be myself and to carry that in to the office, right? I was always hiding something. I was always hiding that I was a mom. I was hiding that I was LGBTQ. I was hiding that I was a grandma, hiding that I was Mexican. There's a particular perception about how we're viewed. I wanted people to know me for me and not those different identities. I'm not really a fan of labeling, and I'm not really a fan of gender norms. I'm very non-traditional in many, many, many ways. I don't live by societal norms too much because I just don't agree with them. I don't think they're not the person that you are. I needed to go through all of that to figure out who the hell I was. And once I was able to break through that, I'm not like worried about showing up, and I'm not worried about how I come across. I'm not worried about whether me wearing green and green earrings like is an issue in my corporate job. Like, I'm not worried about those things. I'm not worried about whether I wear red, whether I have flowers on my shirt, whether I wear embroidery on my shirt. As long as I'm a professional and it meets the guidelines, like, I'm good. And before, it was something that it was really stressful to not be able to talk about your family, not be able to talk about your spouse, not be able to talk about your traditions. We're currently celebrating Dia de los Muertos. Before, I never used to share that. I never used to share that I had an altar. I never used to share the stories with my grandmother and how my grandmother would tell me, she knew that my best friend had died. So she said, is there anybody that you would like to leave water for, that you would like to leave one of their best items for them or whatever they liked? You could put that on here on the shelf. And when she created the altar for her loved ones, she always gave me space for mine. And so those are the kinds of stories that I really never told and I never really shared. But in the workplace, like, it's something that we can begin to share and begin to be yourself and begin to say, hey, this is actually what I do. Yeah, I do go trick or treating. Yes, I do have candy for the kids, but I also share my altar when I open the door. That's something that they can see when they open the door. Right? Sometimes I put the music that goes with that. So kids feel seen and kids feel understood, and kids from my culture and my tradition can see themselves represented when I open the door. Now let's talk about practical steps that you can take. So we talked about understanding the gap, how trauma can fuel our leadership, what authenticity could look like at work, and how it stops us from being stable and being able to be ourselves and sharing information, being transparent with who we are and owning ourselves, like owning who we are. And now, what are those actionable steps that we can take? You can go to therapy if you choose to. So, now just one tip that I did that the first time I didn't do, I went to therapy twice. I kind of just took whoever I found online. I didn't even ask any questions. I didn't even look to see if they were going to be comfortable with me being LGBTQ plus. I didn't ask anything like that. So now the second time around, I didn't just look for a woman, I looked for a Latina woman, and I also asked questions about LGBTQ plus and what's their viewpoints and what do they value, because I wanted to be able to be seen and be heard, and most importantly be understood, and at the same time have them check me when they needed to, because that's what therapy is about being able to help you see what you don't see and help you get through those challenges. Coaching, one of the hardest things that I've had to do was transition in a reorg. And what happened to me was so so different from what I was doing, what I was used to. It was such a different dynamic that I was walking into, and I needed coaching. Like, the coaching helped me get through it and helped me see things a little bit differently and helped me navigate my feelings that I was having about it, and also having mindfulness, right? So now I am very careful about what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, what am I bringing to the table? Is it really about this person? Is it really about the issue? Is it really about my past? What the heck is it about? And when I need to take a break, when I need to cry, when I need to exercise, when I need to go for a walk, when I need to get up from my desk and go around the floor or go downstairs and go get some fresh air, peer support. Right now, especially with my wife's surgery, I needed the support of my team to be able to help carry things through. And that was super helpful. And it just relieves a bunch of stress by being able to be with them, right? And workplace accommodation. So even now, like just going through this, I put in for FMLA so that I could take some time to help my spouse when I need to. That if you do need an accommodation or you do need to ask for something, you should take a look into it and see what those accommodations could be and what justifications you need to provide to be able to ask for them. It's really not that negatively looked upon. And as long as it's justified and it's truthful, there's no reason why you should be scared. It definitely feels uncomfortable to do that. Even for me, it was uncomfortable. And I advise people and recommend things for people all the time and tell them what they're entitled to. But even for me, it was a little bit hard. Like, oh no, I don't want to ask for this. Oh my God, I used all my vacation time. Now, what the heck am I going to do? But the reality is that I need it. And as long as I am fulfilling my duties and making sure that this is done or asking for extensions, whatever it might be. There's just always so many different ways in which we can integrate mental health into our leadership routines to prevent burnout. And this is why it's so important too that you know your rights, that you know what is important to you. Like, what I think about is, if I were to leave my job, they're going to replace me. And the other thing is, like, nobody can be me. So I know what I bring to the table. And then third, I love my wife and we don't know how much time we have together. So I need to be there for her the same way she's been there for me, right? One day for me, one day for you, especially in a marriage. There's times where I didn't have and she gave me, and there was times where I couldn't walk because I couldn't when I hurt my ankle, and she needed to make those trips up and down. Now it's my turn. Now she had a situation. Now I need to be there for her, and I don't need to, I want to be there for her. So, but being able to prevent burnout is important. I still need to sleep, I still need to do my things, right? I want to make sure that my podcast comes out weekly, so we make time for everything. And that's why I'm recording on a Saturday and a Sunday. My days off are the days that I handle my business. My time after work is when I do that. And so, me going into the office at 6:30 in the morning is when I start my day every single day, Monday through Friday. There's so many different ways that we can ask for support. I keep telling her I have like hundreds of people praying for you because of the social media posts that I put out. Even somebody came to me this week and said, "Oh my goodness, I appreciate your vulnerability because it's giving me an opportunity to be okay with what I may need and be okay with understanding that sometimes we do need time and sometimes we do integrate both. Like sometimes it does happen where one goes into the other. I mean, I hadn't slept for 48 hours and I was working remotely that day so that I can meet the deadlines and meet my people, that we were running a training course and I needed to make sure that I gave opening remarks during that. So it's critical sometimes. But at the same time, right, as soon as I could, I took a break. As soon as I could, I went to sleep. When my wife was done, I go and I knock out. I don't stay up all night. I'm not doing anything extra. I have reduced the number of social media posts because I'm not available as much now, but that's okay. It's temporary. But then I also go into my automations and I pull that up and say, okay, what can I reuse? What content can I reuse so that I have what I need? I can achieve what I need to achieve, and people can still continue to see me, and I can still, keep going with my business, and as well as making sure that my home life is good. So sometimes the professional and the personal lives collide, and it's important for you to prevent burnout. Like you can't be do and not rest. Like I have a very difficult choice. I have a very difficult decision that I need to make. And I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 3 a.m. because of this difficult decision that I need to make. And I need to make sure that I give myself the grace to say, you know what, girl, you're gonna make the right decision. You're going to be okay. Everything is going to come out fine. Yes, it is uncomfortable, but everything will be better once it's done. And go to sleep earlier to make sure that I catch up with my bedtime. Otherwise, I'm going to end up being in burnout. So if I need the extra time to think about something, then I will. And do a quick pause in your day as a quick check in. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What emotion am I carrying from last week into this moment? What is one small thing I can do to honor my mental health before the day ends? And even 60 seconds of reflection can reset your mindset and help you show up fully in leadership and in life. So now let's talk about how addressing mental health openly strengthens our influence. So taking up space and creating impact is important. And leadership and advocacy, cultural change starts sometimes with us. And for me, pushing boundaries is something that I do on the regular because I'm non traditional, because I'm the first to do many different things. And being able to do that really does provide a space where I can challenge things. I can challenge norms. I can request and make recommendations for new policies or new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, because I am comfortable with taking up space and creating impact. And it's really key to being in the mindset of being able to tackle these situations with respect, of course. And I encourage you all to normalize mental health conversations at work, in your communities. right? Sometimes you doing it can help others say, you know what, this really helped her, so maybe I can do it too. And it's important that claiming your voice includes advocating for yourself, not just for others. We're used to doing it for others. We can do it for our kids, especially if you have kids, for our parents. If we could do it for your aunties and other people and people that work for you, or people that you know. But then when it comes to advocating for ourselves, we become uncomfortable with it. And sometimes we just need to voice it. Something happened this week where I was just like thinking, for real. But at the same time, I understand where they're coming from and I understand why it happened. But then again, I'm also thinking, should I challenge that? Should I open the door to a new conversation to bring in new norms? Is it an opportunity to create change and update to modern times? And so those are the types of considerations that I do all the time. And that's why sometimes like change happens within your own situations and your own circumstances, when you see the gaps, when you see what's really going on, when you bring your voice to the table. And you just never know who you're helping. You never know how you're helping. You never know where and who is going to listen. There are many resources that you can reach out to. This is a very important conversation to have because I had I had two really big situations happen recently. So one is my wife and the other one was with my parents. And it really took a mental toll on me. It really took me about 3 days to get back to normal because I needed to address it and I needed to understand it and I needed to get help and support. And I really wanted for you to do the same for you. It's okay. Sometimes we do need help. Sometimes it is important to speak to somebody else. Sometimes it is key to understanding where we are, understanding the gap, understanding our numbers, and seeing where, what we can do to feel better and feel good about ourselves and have a clear mind and be energetic and have fun and enjoy our lives and be our authentic selves everywhere we are. So thank you for joining me on this episode of Latina Mic Drop. We've walked through the truth that mental health is central to your voice, your presence, and your impact. Remember, if you identify as a Latino professional, a coach, a leader, you're absolutely allowed to ask for help. Own your story and build strategies for your mind, body, and work. If you love today's conversation, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Connect with me on Instagram at I am Miriam Simon or visit my website, miriamsimon.online. I'd love to hear how you're moving from trauma to power, from silence to voice. Until next time, be bold, be seen, and step into your space. I'll see you on the flip side. Take care.